Good afternoon. My name is Professor Bassem Shaban. I teach world religions at Seminole State College. And this is part of the World Religion Class project dealing with the topic on drunk driving and alcoholism in the United States. So we have a full schedule for you. And many of our speakers are experts in the field of alcoholism and the threat it has on not only young people, but adults in general. So first and foremost, before we introduce our speakers, I want to start off with a video that will get us going about the seriousness of this issue that we're dealing with.
Hello?
Hi, Mum.
Andrew? Not like you to call?
Yeah, I just wanted to say hello.
Oh, all right. It's really noisy and hard to hear you. Are you at a party?
Dude, put down, let's go.
Yeah,
Right. Hey, Jenny wants to know, are you going to come on Sunday? Remember it's Grandpa's birthday. We would love you to be there.
I don't think I'll be able to.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you out with your uni, mate? Andrew, you are actually doing some study this year, aren't you? Not just partying all the time?
Yes, Mum.
Are you keeping on top of your studies? Andrew?
Yes, Mum.
I've told you before, first year is important. You really need to knuckle down, mate.
Yes, Mum. Is Dad there?
No, look, it's really hard to hear you, love. He's on his way home. Why?
Oh, no reason.
Andrew, is something wrong?
No, I just wanted to say hi.
What's wrong, love? Talk to me. Andrew?
And I love you, Mum.
And I love you too, honey. Where are you? Andrew, you're really scaring me. Andrew, what's that? I can't hear you, Andrew.
Somebody! Help!
So our topic, for those who just came in, is drunk driving and the seriousness of this social epidemic in our communities. So our first speaker represents Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Miss Amy Volker. She's a volunteer with MAD, and she speaks to many different groups in order to help fundraise and outreach with the message of the threat of drunk driving. She is professionally an accountant and auditor. She worked for UCF for about 20 years, and she's a proud grandmother and mom. So before we introduce the religious speakers, we're going to give Amy about 20 minutes to introduce us to this topic. So help me welcome Amy Volker to the podium.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for letting me come back today and share. I'm hoping in the next few minutes to accomplish a couple of things. I want to share some facts with you about drunk driving. I want to tell you my personal story and give you some ideas of what you can do if you choose as far as making better decisions about drinking and driving. And just to let you know, these are facts about drunk driving. MAD recently changed their mission to include drugged driving as well. So really, when I speak about it, I'm thinking about any time someone's under the influence of anything that affects their mental and motor skills. So that could be prescription drugs, illegal drugs, and/or alcohol. So first, the cold hard facts. 0.08, that is the legal limit for your blood alcohol content in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Essentially what that means is that for every 100 milliliters of your blood, there are 8 grams of alcohol. If you're under 21, the legal limit is 0 because you're not supposed to legally be drinking. You can get a DUI, driving under the influence, boating under the influence, which unfortunately happens quite a bit in the states with a lot of lakes like Florida. and things like public intoxication. Every 110 seconds, so just under 2 minutes every day in the US, someone is injured in a drunk driving crash. That's 290,000 injuries in 2013. The next one is every 52 minutes. So once an hour approximately every day in the US, someone is killed in a driving under the influence crash. That's 10,076 people in 2013. And I happened to look up the enrollment of Seminole State College. You're right around 18,600 students. So to kind of put that in perspective, if that happened just here on campus, or I guess really the campuses of Seminole State College, it's 1 out of every 2 people would not be here next year. The DUI deaths are about 1/3 of all vehicle-related deaths in the US. That's for 0.08 and above. If you take into account the 0.01 to 0.08, so any alcohol in the system, it actually rises to 40% of deaths from vehicle crashes. The $199 billion is not the money I have in the bank, unfortunately, although I wish hopefully someone here will one day get there. This is actually the cost every year from drunk driving crashes in the US. This is everything from your increased insurance costs, which affects everybody, even though you may not be involved in the crash, the health expenses, funeral expenses, all of those things that go into repairing lives as best possible after a crash. Male versus female. Sorry guys, you're on the losing end of this one. Men are more likely to drive drunk, almost 2 times as likely as females. Ages, again, there are a lot of faces in this room that fall into the category. 21 to 24-year-olds are the biggest percentage of drunk drivers at 32%. It goes down slightly from there on, but the vast majority of DUIs go to someone between the ages of 21 and 44. And lastly, the 1/3 again and again. Unfortunately, about 1/3 of DUI arrests are for repeat offenders. Someone who's already been arrested, convicted or not convicted, but they've had an arrest for DUI and they're back on the street and they do it again and they're rearrested. And just so you know, every time somebody is driving drunk, they don't get stopped. You know, they say the average is something like 80 times driving under the influence before you actually will get a DUI. Now there is some good news. I volunteer for MAD. MAD was established in 1980. So in those 35 years, efforts of MAD and similar organizations, interlock device law, the thing you have to put on your car and blow in to start it if you've been convicted of a DUI. However, all the states are different. One of the MAD initiatives right now is to get every state to change that law. So when you get the first DUI, you have to put in the ignition interlock device. Reason being, there have been some studies by other traffic safety organizations that show that especially for repeat offenders, that change reduces DUI crashes by 60%. They did a study, I think it was in Arizona, New Mexico, I want to say one of the other states out in that area. You know, the thing about drunk driving is we don't need to find a cure. We actually know what the cure is. The cure is not to drink and drive or drive a boat. Actually, there have also been driving golf carts under the influence with injuries and deaths. So it's 100% preventable crime. It's more about the social aspects of being able to say, I'm not okay to drive, or I need to make a plan before I get out and have a good time. We're not against drinking, we're not against partying, okay, that's not it, it's just be responsible. I want to share with you a few faces, mostly from Central Florida, but others I've just kind of come to know as I've volunteered. I'm going to start up here in the corner with the little cutie with the little pigtails. Her name is Emma Longstreet. Emma was killed on New Year's Day 2013 when she was on her way to church with her family, and a drunk driver hit their van. The ignition interlock law in South Carolina, the first one ever put into place last year, is named Emma's Law, after Emma Longstreet. Next is Laura Lamb. In 1979, Laura and her mom were on their way to the grocery store on a Saturday morning when they were hit head-on by a repeat offender drunk driver without a valid driver's license who had already had 3 pints of alcohol and a couple of beers by 11 o'clock in the morning. He hit them head-on, and Laura became the youngest quadriplegic in the U.S. at 5.5 months old. The offender was sentenced to 6.5 years, and about the time he served his time is how long Laura lived. She died at 7 years old from complications from her injuries. Next is Carrie Leitner. In 1980, Carrie was walking with a friend to a fair at their neighborhood church when she was hit by a drunk driver. Her mom, Candace Leitner, started Mothers Against Drunk Driving and also has another nonprofit now called We Save Lives with the same mission. She realized that the repeat offender in their case was only going to be sentenced to 2 years, basically halfway house arrest, and that was what really spurred her on to try to get tougher sentencing, especially for repeat offenders. Jeremy Adams is in the corner. He was killed in 2011. And I share him because he was actually on his motorcycle. He was being followed by his girlfriend who was driving her car. She was intoxicated. She actually ran over and killed Jeremy and drove several more blocks before she realized he wasn't in front of her any longer. On the bottom is Lauren DiTrio. In 2008, she was on a walk with a friend when she was hit by a repeat offender who actually tried to flee the scene but then hit a telephone pole, which stopped her long enough for authorities to get there and arrest her. The next is Devon Alicia. His mom and I speak a lot here in Central Florida. In 2009, Devon went out with a friend. His friend was drunk. His friend was driving. Devon was sober. And his friend went off the road and hit a pole and killed Devon. Their trial ended last year, and he was sentenced to jail. Next is Jamari Cook and Rachel Price. They were students from the Central Florida area. They were going off back to college together, like traveling, back to the spring semester, when an alleged drunk driver hit and killed them both. Their trial is still ongoing. Why I use the word allegedly. He did have the high blood alcohol content. And last, Crystal Fisher. In 2005, she was killed along with her friend Bethany. They were in the car with a friend who was drunk. He had an accident crash. They were both killed. And when the police got there, he was standing beside the car telling them that he'd killed his 2 best friends. So this is why I care. This is a picture from 2009. My son, Kelly, is there graduating from high school in the middle. He was in the International Baccalaureate program, so he has kind of, a little bit of bling on. My husband, his dad, Roy, is in the back, and my stepsons, Roy's sons, are on either side. Nathan's in the blue, and Roy, the third, is in the pink shirt. Roy and I raised his boys, then added Kelly, and we had a whole life of a lot of boy stuff. If you have brothers and sisters, you can probably understand that better than me. I was an only child, and so it was a little bit of a learning experience, I can tell you, as a parent, but lots of fun. And when we had this graduation, it was the first time in a couple years we'd all been together. Roy had gone to college in Louisiana, met a young lady there, gotten married, so we didn't see him as often. And we decided we would plan for the following summer, a big family get-together. Kelly was going off to school at University of Miami, and so, we knew it would be that transition to where, the kids were all going to be around less and less. So in July 2010, we rented a beach house over at Reddington Beach, which is near St. Pete on the west coast of Florida. We were celebrating Kelly's 19th birthday on Friday. Got him a big cookie cake that we devoured. It was my husband and I, Kelly and his girlfriend Celine, Roy and his wife Sandy, and they had a 4-month-old son, Roy 4, and Nathan and his wife and their 2.5-year-old daughter Kayla. Saturday was beach day. We spent a lot of time out having fun, playing with the grandkids, splashing. There was a whole incident with filling the baby pool and dumping it on the girls and, all that kind of fun stuff. And fixed dinner together. And the guys had all said, leading up to this vacation, that they wanted to kind of do something, just the four of them. And they decided they would just go to a late movie, and we would stay and watch a DVD and put the kids to bed. And so they took off to go see the movie. That same Saturday, in another part of St. Pete, the 20-year-old Demetrius Jordan, he had kind of grabbed his cousin for the day, and they'd been hanging out. They went over to a girlfriend's house to hang out with the girls. They were drinking mixed drinks and Four Locos, which at the time was a highly caffeinated beer. It's actually a very cheap beer. Since then, the caffeine's been removed for other lawsuit reasons. And about sometime after midnight, Demetrius and his cousin decided they would leave the girls' house. Demetrius was driving. They were driving down a 4-lane undivided road in St. Pete. The speed limit's 35 miles an hour. He was going from 85 to 90 on that road and blowing through the stoplights, according to witnesses, when he tried to run the light at 9th Street and 22nd Avenue. My husband was driving himself and my sons back to the beach house from the movie on 22nd Avenue on the green light. That's a picture of our car from that night. Demetrius hit it square on the passenger side, where my son Kelly was in the front and Nathan was in the back. He shoved the car across the intersection, up over the curb, and the force of it threw our car up into the steel pole that's at the 7-Eleven there with the gas prices. On the far side of the car, there's a pole-sized dent where my husband was sitting as the driver. And because of those decisions, and in that split moment of time, my husband of 20 years and my 19-year-old son and my 24 and 28-year-old stepsons were killed instantly in this crash. Demetrius' cousin was seriously hurt. I know he was released from the hospital in a wheelchair. I don't know his current condition. Demetrius hurt his foot and ankle. He was taken to the hospital where he was then arrested for 4 counts of DUI manslaughter. He was not released on bond.